Today in this class we are going to discuss about one of the most important exam topic, that is software requirements specification. In short, it is known as SRS. In your exam you will be asked to write the SRS, that is software requirements specification of a given software. So let us understand that what is SRS and how can we write the SRS of any given software. So a software requirement specification, SRS, that is a document that describes what the software will do and how it will be expected to perform. It also describes the functionality. In very short, it has been written in this definition that it is a documentation process of a given software. So a complete documentation has to be done of a software, that is known as the SRS. So it includes the requirement of the software, the specification needed for the software, the platform needed for the software, how the software is going to behave, what are the tasks that is expected to be performed by the software. All these things will be discussed. What are the advantage of using the software, what are the purpose that will be solved by the software. So let us start one by one. Who are the users of the SRS? So let us understand who are going to use this software requirement specification. So software development team, that means a group of people who have developed the software, they will need this SRS. In future, if any problem arise or if the development team changes, then the documentation is needed to know what actually the software was going to perform. And software maintenance team, so after the software will be developed, it has to be maintained in long run. So there are the team, right, a group of people who will maintain the software. So there will be a group of people who are responsible for maintaining the software. They will need this documentation. Without this documentation, it is not possible for them to know the exact performance of the software, what are the code, how the software is going to behave. All these things has to be written in the SRS. So the software maintenance team has to follow the SRS to understand how the software is going to behave. If any problem arises, then the team will know that how it actually behave, so the team can perform the maintenance. Now the business client, so the business client also need this SRS documentation. The technical writer who are going to write the technical part, they also need this software requirement specification. So now let us understand what are we going to write in this SRS. Very important for your exam, because you will be asked to write the SRS of a given software. So what are we going to write there, that we are going to understand step by step. So you can see contents of the SRS. So all these things we are going to write in our exam paper when we will be asked to write the SRS of any given software. Let's say in exam, if you will be asked that write the SRS of library management system, or you can be asked to write the SRS of online reservation system. So these are the heads you have to write. So these are the contents of the SRS. So first you have to write the category, followed by purpose, then scope, introduction, advantages, functional requirements of the software, non-functional requirements of the software, software tool deployment, hardware specification. All these things you have to write one after another. Let me discuss everything, each and everything I will discuss in detail in this class. So let us start with the category section. So in the category section we have to write that what category does this particular software belonging to. So this software which you might have developed could be a desktop application, right? or it could also be a mobile application, or it can also be a web application, or Android application. So it could be any application. So the category, you have to mention that what is the category of this intended software which the team has developed or a single person has developed, right? So once the reader will read that it is a desktop application or a mobile application, then what will happen? The reader will try to imagine the software in the perspective of a desktop application or a web application. The thought process will change, right? So that is why it is important to know the category of application, because in the time of modification or the development, so the reader need to understand, while reading this documentation, the reader will understand that what category this software is belonging to. So in that perspective, the reader will start thinking about the software. Now next is the purpose. Why have you developed this software, or why the team, this particular team has developed the software? What is the requirement? So that is, why had you developed this software? What is the reason behind developing this software? What is the purpose for developing this software? So is this thing you have to write down. So assume you have developed a library management system. So why have you developed the library management system? There must be some purpose. So whatever you are doing in this life, every step which you are taking, there is a certain purpose. You are eating, you are drinking water, there is a purpose. You are eating because you are hungry, you are drinking water that because you are thirsty, right? So whatever you are doing, there is a certain purpose. Why had you developed this software? Because there are the requirements. So you have to write about the requirement, that if you have developed a library management system, then why had you developed the library management system? Because the existing manual library management system was not efficient. You want to make the process efficient. That is why you have developed this library management software, so that it can overtake the manual process of managing the library. It will save effort, it will reduce the consumption of time. So that is why you have developed this library management system. If you have developed an online reservation system, you have to write the purpose. That's why had you developed the online reservation system. Because the user, the client, they did not require to go physically to book their ticket. To reserve a ticket, they did not require to reach there physically. Sitting at their home by using mobile, they can have everything at their fingertips. So that is why we have developed online reservation system, because it will become easy for the user. Sitting at their home, they can book a ticket or two for them or for their family. So that is why you have developed, that is the purpose why you have developed. So you have to write the purpose of the software which you have developed, right? Now the next is the scope, that what are the areas this software will cover, right? So what are the areas, and what are the areas this software will not cover? There are certain area which this software will not cover, so the scope is limited, right? So first you have to write the scope, and also you have to write the limit of this scope, right? What are the limitations of this software? You have to write the limitations of the software which you have developed. Let me explain you with an example. You have developed a library management system, right? So that will manage the library, that will keep a record of all the books, right? The name of the books, the author of the books, right? And it will also keep record that the student, the staff, the other candidates who are taking the books, at what time, which day they are taking the books, all this will be recorded. And when they will have to return the books, that will also be recorded. If they will return the book after the due date, will there be any charges that will be deducted from them? Whatever charge that will be charged, everything will be managed by the software. So that is the scope. That is the scope for the library management system. Now if you ask the library management system software to do the accounting of product, that is purchase and sale, will that particular software able to give you a report of purchase and sale of product? No, that is never going to happen. That is the limitations of the software. If you ask the software to print out the result of student, no, the software will not able to print the result out of the student, because that is the limitations of the software. That particular software is a library management system that can only handle the purpose of the library for which you have developed the software. So that is the scope of the software, and that are the limitations. Okay, so you also have to write the limitations of the software, right? Now introduction. So what are you going to write in the introduction? So see, first you have to write the existing system. You have to introduce the existing system, that say about the library management system. Before you have developed the library management system, the library has to be managed by manual process, right? Before the software was developed, the library has to be managed by the manual process by a group of people, right? So you have to write that the existing manual process of managing the library, how that has been executed, how the exercise has been conducted, right? How many employees have been employed to the process of solving the purpose of managing the library, and how much time they have to give for the work, and how long it has been taken for each and every operation. Let's say when a student come and asks for a book, if a query come for a particular book, it has to be checked manually that is that particular book is available in the stock, is that particular book is available or not available. That has to be checked, right, manually. So how long does it take to check manually about that particular query? So now that you have to write for the existing system. Now what is the proposed system? That is the online, or you can say the software which you have developed for the library management system. It could be online software, it could be local software. So you have developed a software of library management system. Now that is not the manual process. The system will manage everything. So you will just write the query in the system. The system will tell you that whether that particular book is available in the stock or not. The system will tell you that at what location, which almirah, which number of sale, at which exact location you can find that particular book. The software will tell everything, right? So how long it will take for the software to run that particular query. Now if you just find that how many books are available right now, what is the author name, or which new books that will be added, now which is the due date for a particular student to return the book. Now all these affairs will be managed by the online software or the offline library management software. Now you have to compare that which one is better. So you have to write the proposed system is much better than the existing one, right? So to manage the library manually, it has taken enough time, it has taken enough employees, labor, but to manage the software of library management system, it will take just minimum amount of effort, limited number of labor. Let's say 2% can handle the software, right? Rather than in earlier system which was managed manually, 20 employees was required for managing the library. Rather now the proposed system can be handled by just 2 employees, and to execute any given query it will take not more than 2 or 3 seconds. Rather in the previous existing system which was manually managed, in that particular process, for each and every query 10 to 15 minutes was taken to solve the candidate, right? So you have to write that the proposed system is much better than the existing one. That means the online library management system or whatever software you have developed, that is better than the existing one, right? If you write the existing one is better than the new one, then why are you going to develop the new software, right? So you can't write that the existing one is better than the proposed system. You can't write. If you write that, then there is no meaning of developing the proposed system. So always you have to prove by writing that the proposed system is much better than the existing one. That is why you have developed the proposed system, right? Now advantages. There should be advantages, right? So you have to write down the advantages of the software on each perspective. What does it mean, right? The advantage of the software from each and every perspective. That means, let's say you have developed a online examination system, right? A system which will take exam online. So let's say who are going to give the exam online? Students, right? So let me tell you the advantages on the perspective of students. So student need not require to reach the school or college, right? Sitting at their home, student can give their exam, right? So sometimes it happens to be that students who are residing at far distance from the location, they fail to attend the exam, right? So in that cases, student need not require to come and give the exam. Sitting at their home, they can give the exam. So that is the advantage from the student perspective. Sitting at their home, student can give exam in online examination system. Now let me give you the advantages position from the teacher perspective, right? So teacher did not require to manually attend each and every system. The software will handle everything, right? Teacher did not require to set the question paper. The software will manage each and everything. Teacher did not require to evaluate the answers. The software will automatically evaluate and give the marks to the student. So if you develop an online exam system, so this is the advantage from each and every perspective. From the teacher perspective, I have also given the advantages. From the student perspective, I have also given the advantages. So whichever software you have developed, you have to write down the advantages from each user perspective. So each user means how many category of users are included to use that particular software. You have to write the advantages from each and every perspective, right? I hope you have understood. Now functional requirements of the software. Functional requirements of the software, that is a set of requirements, those are proposed by the client. So the client has proposed some functional requirements for the given software. Now I am not going to discuss this in detail because I have prepared a separate video where I have covered these functional requirements of the software and non-functional requirements of the software in detail. So I will give the link in the description below. So you may find the link if you have not seen the functional requirements of the software and non-functional requirements of the software. So for that I have given the link in the description. You can find it from there, right? So non-functional requirements of the software. So this is actually contrasting requirements for satisfying the needs of the functional requirements. Those are applicable to the software. As I have already told you that the client will give the functional requirements. Now the non-functional requirements are nothing but the contrasting requirements for satisfying the need of the functional requirements which the user has given to the developer, that has to be implemented or that has to be executed in the software. The software should perform and satisfy these needs. Those are the functional requirements, right? Non-functional requirements are the just the contrasting part which will add the benefit for the functional requirements, right? So the functional requirements and the non-functional requirements, I have prepared a separate video. So that link I have given in the description below. Please find it if you have not seen that. Now let me discuss about the software tools. So you have to write the software tools. So which software tools you have used to develop the software, right? You have to write down all those. So let me explain to you that if you have write the code in a text editor, so that is a software tool, let's say Notepad. If you have written your code in Notepad, so that is a software tool, Notepad, or you can say NetBeans text editor. So if you have written your code in NetBeans text editor, that is a software tool. So which language have you used? So if you have used HTML, then that is the software language you have used. If you have used CSS, JavaScript for validating your software, then you have to write down all the languages along with the text editor. If you need a browser, you have to write that browser is also requirement, right, to check out the process of your software, right. So if you have developed a web application, you have to write text editor, browser, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or if you have the backend process, then you have to write the SQL database, or if you have used any server-side scripting language to do the interaction between the client-side application and server-side application, you can write that server-side application language, let's say PHP, right. If you have installed the XAMPP software in your system, then you have to write XAMPP software. That is also a tools that you have used, right. All these things you have to write, whichever tools you have required for developing the software, or you can say not just only developing the software, to run the software, right. Along with the development of the software, also to run the software, whichever tools will be required, you have to write in detail, right. Now deployment. What does it mean? Environment for deployment. So deployment is nothing but the installation process. There are some software which has to be installed in the system, right. So you have to write that process. If not install, you can say hosting. For some software, hosting is required. Let's say a web application has to be hosted where? Either in the cloud server, or in the shared server, or in the local server, that is XAMPP. So it is hosting has to be done, right. Otherwise the application will not run. To execute the application, you need an environment. You have to write about the environment. So how can we create the environment? So some application are there which has to be installed. So installation process, that is the environment you have to provide. Or you can say hosting is also an environment for some kind of application. So deployment means an environment in which environment the application will run. So you have to write something about that, a few lines about that in the deployment, right. Depending on the software which you have developed, you have to write about the deployment, right. Now the hardware specification. Now for developing that software, what you have the requirements. So what have you needed to develop the software, right. You have the requirement, right. So let's say you have written the program in computer, so you need to have a computer. So just not write the computer, you have to write the RAM. So 4 GB RAM or more, 2 GB or more, you can say 4 GB or more, depending on the application which you have developed. RAM, processor. So just say you can write a dual core processor, core to duo processor. So what processor that was required in your system, you can write the processor that was in your system, right. Is that the maximum requirement, or you can say that is the minimum requirement, right. So you have to write about those hardware parts, let's say RAM, a processor, hard disk space, right. So what is the space of the hard disk, right. So also you need to write the maximum space the application will consume. Let's say you have a hard disk of 1 TB. That doesn't mean this application will consume full 1 TB. In bracket you have to mention that this particular application will not consume more than, let's say, 500 MB of space, right. You may have a hard disk of 1 TB, right. That you can write hard disk of 1 TB. That is the requirement, right. But this application will not consume 1 TB of hard disk. The application will only consume maximum of 50 MB of space. So that if you can write in bracket. So if anybody having, let's say, a old hard disk of 80 GB, they can also execute this software, because to save this particular application you not require more than 500 MB of space, right. So you have to write down. So in the hardware section, whatever hardware requirement you do have, keyboard, mouse, monitor, RAM, processor, hard disk space. If you develop a high-end system, then you also have required graphic card, right? So all these things are the hardware specification for developing the particular software, and not only to develop the software, to run the software, right? So I hope you have understood what I have discussed today in this class, and if you like this video, then please click the like button and share this video with your friend, and do not forget to subscribe the channel. Thank you for watching.